Hello, Pam. Hello, Jeff. How are you two?
Hello.
Nice to see you. Hi, Pam. We are here today to talk about the CFP process for two fall events, the Learning 2022 show and DevLearn 2022. I'm Mark Britz, wearing my Rams hat. My championship here has not come yet, so I'm probably the only living Rams fan in all of New York State. It's weird, but I definitely had to show it off. David might be watching. David Kelly's a 49ers fan, so I definitely have double reason to wear the Rams hat. I'll lose it now, though, everybody. Anyhow, I'm Mark Britz. I am the Director of Programming, Event Programming at the Guild. I'm joined by my two colleagues, Jeff Batt and Pam Hogle. Jeff will be overseeing the development and execution of our DevLearn show this fall, and Pam will be doing the same for the Learning 2022 show. So we want to spend a little time chatting with you two, kind of talking a little bit about the CFP process, because the window for submitting to speak at our events is now open and we're already getting submissions, but we wanted to make sure we clarify, talk a little bit about the similarities, differences in these two events that are coming up. So I don't want to speak too much longer. I'm going to actually turn things over to Pam to kind of tell us a little bit about our Learning 2022 show. You can kind of fill us in about, what's the general theme, Pam? What's it all about? Tell us, if you will.
Okay. Learning 2022 show has the tagline of advancing learning leadership. It's about issues that face people in leadership positions, whether that's as the only person or the head of an L&D team at a company, or whether it's as a CLO or anything in between. And we are looking for session proposals from people who have experience to share, best practices, information about either upskilling yourself as a leader or helping to prepare and improve the skills of your company's leadership. Anything that touches on leadership and leading a learning team is fair game.
As a past learning leader myself in some organizations, it definitely has a distinguished feel to leaning into that space to grow. So as Pam mentioned in there, obviously the strategy and management, but it's like you can look at the various functions in learning and say it is taken from that perspective or that lens of leadership and how to advance some of those conversations around technology or methodology or applications from that viewpoint. Pam, what kind of sessions would we have at the program? How are they going to be constructed? So if we're going to ask somebody to submit, what formats and things might we be talking about?
We have a range of different session types at Learning. We do a lot of case studies and learning journeys where people share their experience addressing a particular problem. We have debates or discussions where people tackle issues facing leaders today. Throughout the pandemic and as we emerge from it, what people want from their leaders is really changing. So the kind of skills that leaders need is changing, and the kind of problems that leaders face is changing. As teams shift to remote and hybrid work, that makes it much harder to keep a team connected and to keep a company connected. So leaders are grappling with those issues. So any kind of session that shares experience solving a problem or looks at different angles on it, or just different tools that maybe people have used in creative ways to help teams connect or learn or collaborate better, any of that would be a great session for the Learning show.
Great. So before I forget real quick, we are in a webinar format for this, so I know there's people in attendance here. You can use the Q&A feature. You can ask a question in there. We can monitor that and answer any specific questions you might have about the events. And I'll actually lean into Pam and Jeff to answer those specific questions about the events and the CFP process. But let's pivot real quick, because learning has the advancing learning leadership kind of angle. So Jeff, DevLearn is going to be happening around the same time. The CFP is open right now. Why don't we dig into that a little bit? Tell us a little bit about DevLearn, its differentiation in terms of its value proposition. What are we looking for? Go for it.
Yeah, DevLearn is all about shaping what's next. It's about talking about the learning technologies that are out there. It's talking about, the learning strategies and everything like that, and talking about, things that people need to be aware of as they start to as they develop training or as they, create learning programs or anything like that. So you could come to DevLearn and you can learn about different tools, your basic tools like Storyline and Captivate and other tools like that. But then you can also come in and learn about, instructional design principles as well. But also even pushing it further. So, looking at augmented reality and virtual reality, XAPI, other things like that, that you can start, learn about and start implementing or take back to your organization to help push forward your organization and its learning technology.
So something else I'll ask too is like, what types of sessions might we see if somebody's submitting to the program, wants to speak at the program? How do these kind of break out for people who are planning to or wanting to speak at our event? I'm thinking about like, we have obviously we have sessions like our concurrent sessions, 60-minute sessions,
yep.
BYODs, for example.
Yeah, so we have the concurrent sessions, which is usually like a speaker that gets up and is talking and still has some engagement with the audience and asking questions and maybe splitting off into groups and working through some things. The hands-on one is the BYOD, so bring your own device. You actually bring a device and you follow along with the speaker. And so you may be doing something new, like you wanted to do like augmented reality and getting your feet wet with augmented reality and following along with the speaker in that hour. So you can walk away with an example. You can walk away with something that you can then go show your organization and say, hey, I went to DevLearn and I explored a little bit on augmented reality and here's what we can do with it. And it gives you those ideas to move forward and with, your strategy and learning. So.
Yep, perfect. So we kind of like get a nice differentiation between the two events coming up. Of course, again, guys who are just joining in right now, we have the Q&A open, so if there's something specific you want to ask. But I definitely want to use a little bit of the time just to talk in general terms. A lot of people are looking for, when I'm going to submit, what are some tips, some ideas, some approaches I might want to take in the structure of the CFP. And I'm going to start real quick. And one of the things I definitely advise people to do when they're submitting to our events is we provide a link within there to get a Word document of the actual submission form. And it's really highly advisable that you initially kind of think through your process right then and there in that Word document and then copy and paste that into the form. Sometimes you might be in the form itself and moving through it, and you may be not ready to submit or haven't given it your full thought yet. Use that Word document first to kind of think through what you want to submit before you actually enter it into the online form would be a recommendation. Pam or Jeff, do you have another tip or something you might want to share?
Sure. I think we're looking for a clear picture so that we can have a clear picture in our heads of what training issue or challenge you're going to address and how, and what's your unique angle on it. People are looking for, shared experience, but also things that they can apply in their own organization. So something that kind of applies more broadly or that people can take away and say, yeah, that's something I can go back and share with my team, or something that we can work on over the next several weeks or months.
I think that's key. Having what is the problem you're trying to solve?
Yeah.
And then what is clearly defining what is the solution without over explaining it. I mean, helping us get a clear picture of it. How is your session going to provide value? How is it going to address that problem without spilling the beans, everything, but just at least giving us enough detail that we can get that picture. And I think that's key there. And then even the takeaways, what is somebody going to take away? What are they going to get from this session? What are they going to walk away with? If that's clear in a session and it's something like that's unique, that's providing value, I think those are the sessions that do the best.
Yeah, without question. I think one of my things I always remind people too is when you're thinking about your session, we can easily start into the narratives. Jeff, you just described it. Usually there's a first paragraph. Tell us the challenge the industry, challenge the individuals, the organization, and how's your session going to address that? What's the solution? How by coming to a session are you going to have the answer? But I almost say too is really think through those objectives. We do have a space on the form that says, in the session you will learn, and really kind of fleshing those out first is one strategy to take, because then you can build backwards from there and kind of build that narrative of that experience. And going along with that experience, if somebody's interested, especially at DevLearn with a BYOD, we're always asking that question: how is this going to be different? Why is this a hands-on session? What are people going to be doing in the session? So if you're interested in really creating a BYOD session, bring your own device, be thinking about how that device is going to be maximized within that session, so that we're not left guessing how that technology might be integrated.
Yeah, those are some of my favorite sessions, because I walk away with something. I'm not just hearing somebody give a lot of information. I actually have done something. I've gotten my feet wet with something. And so to me, that's the key with those sessions, is being able to walk an audience through some simple task of how to do something in Storyline or Captivate or augmented reality, and have that kind of detailed out in your proposal, I think is helpful as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We got a couple questions coming in, so I'm gonna toss these up here real quick. So one of the questions was, do you expect, this is from Miriam, do you expect us to back up our proposed approach and findings with research or evidence-based findings to address organizational issues? I can't say that we're always looking for a reference, if you're looking for it in your proposal, if it deals with that. However, one of the things I would caution against is providing information in a proposal that you can't back up, that you can't support in some way. It's not something that you have to be driving, because a lot of times there's case study presentations that are done that are unique to an organization, and they share an insight or an idea that was used in that organization that somebody can build upon. So it's not necessarily that we're looking for or have crafted a particular space for evidence-based within the proposal itself, but anytime you can support your own findings against those that have been researched, that's always going to be welcome. Second question came in is, anonymous attendee said, so the Learning Solutions event focuses on leadership and DevLearn more on teaching and learning practices. Well, let me clarify. We're talking about the Learning 2022 show in Orlando, not the Learning Solutions conference and the DevLearn conference in this particular. So we have 3 actual events that are out there. So Pam, as they bring it up, it's about the leadership piece in the learning show that they're referencing here. We talked about in the front end. You want to reiterate that piece again for us?
Sure. The difference in the sessions might be something like a DevLearn session would focus on, how to do AR using Storyline, let's say. Whereas a learning session might focus on choosing the right authoring tool or set of tools, or building your learning ecosystem so that it serves the needs of your entire organization. So it's a more zoomed out, big picture strategic approach versus more of a practitioner, how to do something better kind of focus. Does that make sense, Mark?
It does make sense to me.
Okay.
DevLearn definitely has more of that, the learning practices, but also just even, pushing the limit of like, what else can we do that we haven't done in the industry? What are other companies doing in the industry to push forward the technology and stuff that we can learn about and then take back to our organization? I think that's key too with DevLearn, is it's really, like it says, shaping what's next. What is next in the learning technology, both on the strategy side and the technology side. How do we approach this strategically, but also what tools can we use to start pushing this forward as well? So.
Jeff and Pam, are you seeing the questions along with me, or should I just read them off?
No, I see. So I can read this next one. Who will be reviewing the proposals? Are there specific selection criteria you prioritize over others? So this who you're seeing right now. Myself, Mark, and Pam are part of the team. We also have Sierra and David Kelly, who will also be reviewing the proposals. So really, we're the team that's reviewing those. As far as selection criteria, it really comes down, for me, it comes down, is there a clear problem that others, I can see that people are trying to solve? And how does your session address that problem? Is there like a clear path to how you're going to address it? And then those clear takeaways. What is the attendee, trying to think of it in the attendee perspective? What is the attendee going to walk away with at the end of your session? If those things are clear to me and it's a relevant topic, then that's really what I would say. Yes, that seems like a good subject. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'd add to that I'm looking for a leadership angle. How does that serve the needs of people in a leadership position? I also kind of look to see how people address whether they're going to have an interactive session, how they're going to bring audience perspectives in or questions or a takeaway that people can go home with. I'm looking for that too.
We have another question. What resources are available to help me write a winning proposal? Yeah, the website holds a key to this. We actually have speaking at Guild events on that particular page. Kind of shares with you examples and non-examples of session proposals that will help you kind of guide your thinking on this. We have the FAQ, which breaks things down as well. These are all good resources, but I'd say the number one resource that's out there is Pam. No, it's Pam and Sierra. We all respond to the programs@learningguild.com email address. We'll check it out. So if you have a specific question, if you've got a specific idea and you want to bounce that our way before submitting it as a proposal, we would love to look at those and guide you. We're always looking for new speakers at our events and are always available to help, even set up a phone call if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, I've had a few already where they've just emailed about DevLearn. I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about that subject, and we're here to help. We're happy to offer our feedback and what might help it work. It's not a guarantee that the session, because we still have to balance out the topics and stuff, but it does help you with your proposal, I think.
Yeah, I've had a couple phone calls this week already and several emails. So definitely reach out to us. We're happy to help.
I'm seeing Mary just responded in the chat and just said that she was glad to hear that. So that we reach out to us again. That's programs@learningguild.com. And Jeff, myself, or Pam, or Sierra will be able to help guide your thinking in terms of the proposal that you are contemplating. There's no more other questions in the queue, so I'll ask again the team other tips, ideas, thoughts, things that come to mind with being the ones who review proposals. I'll throw this out there as one of the ones that's I've been doing this for a number of years. One of the recommendations I make is don't write your proposal to convince Pam, Jeff, or myself to be on the program. Write to your audience. You know, if you go to the websites, if you go to past events, you'll see, for example, who comes to our event. Be thinking about the audience that's going to be in the room and their particular needs. Write to them. Yes, we are acting as them in proxy when we read these, but we don't want a proposal coming in that's targeting us specifically to say why you should be a speaker on the program. That's not what we're looking for to read in your proposal. We want to see how you are going to be helping that audience. So speak specifically to the audience you're thinking about when developing that proposal.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I mean, that's how we read it, is usually, you know, in the attendee perspective as well. But I also think that even just having a unique proposal. I mean, we probably see a lot of sessions as on storyline, for example, right? So there are a lot of storyline, just generic getting to know storyline. But if there's something unique in storyline, for example, and I'm just using storyline as an example, but if there's something unique like making interactive 360 experiences or adapting one session that I just reviewed the other day was adapting storyline with different camera views as well. So if it's something unique that that you're doing that other people can benefit, that helps you stand out as well, I think.
A couple more questions came in. I see one from Morgan down here. Says, hi all, Mark, where do you say we can find information about the audience types on the website? So in the past events, those sites usually have a list of who attends that particular event as one place to search for that information. And I've also believed that if you go to the page on the on the Guild, main Guild website about speaking at Guild events, that breakdown will be present there. But you know, typically, like Jeff was saying, instructional designers, L&D managers, graphic designers, e-learning developers, these individuals you'll find attending our DevLearn event. And obviously people in learning leadership. And I'd also argue that those people looking to move within their organizational leadership, you know, we're looking at people who are looking for have greater influence. You know, those people who are definitely trying to bring awareness and attention to new ideas and initiatives will be interested in coming to the learning show.
I just pasted a link to the DevLearn proposal. There's also the similar one on the learning. And on that link, there is, if you go down halfway, there is a link to a Word document that you can start filling out, like Mark has been talking about, but also PDF proposal examples. You could download that PDF to see kind of those examples like he's talking about.
There's a question about when proposals are due. The calls for proposal for both events is open through next Friday, February 25th.
I noticed that. Hi, Kristen. Nice to see you here, Kristen. Kristen's asking, not a question, but a note for the person asked about a winning proposal. Kristen says, I've always found that looking at past session descriptions has been really helpful. Yeah, it is. You get a definite insight. If something's made the program, that's a pretty good indicator of the style and the way it's been formatted and the topic that's been included in there. So past events on the descriptions will be really a valuable resource. Thanks for that tip, Kristen.
Yeah, just a note about that. The session descriptions on site are a great thing to look at, but in your proposal that you submit, you should probably provide us a little more detail. We do tend to trim those down a little bit to put on the conference website. But when we're looking at the sessions to consider them, we want a little more in-depth understanding of what you're going to present for a full hour.
One other thing that I did, and I kind of get made fun of, I don't really get made fun of, but teased a little bit. Before coming and working for the Guild, I would submit a couple different proposals. So if you have a couple different ideas, that also could help with like different options that we have. Like maybe we have like 10 Camtasia proposals and you proposed one, but maybe you've proposed something else on XAPI and we don't have as many XAPI proposals. That could help your chances as well, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a good point, Jeff. Sometimes that question comes up, and that is, how many proposals can I submit? There's no cap. You can definitely submit as much as you want to submit if you have a lot to offer. I mean, I'll tell you the truth though, from our experiences, by the time somebody has submitted 5, 6, 7, by number 6, number 7, it's starting to feel a little bit like we're really pushing to get on the program, and they tend to get a little bit weaker later on in those multiple ones that are in there. So
like 2 or 3, right?
What's that?
I would say like the sweet spot would maybe be like 2 or 3 if you wanted to try a couple different proposals.
Yeah, I think so. Not that we look at somebody who says that they submitted 6, they could submit 6 solid ones. It does raise an eyebrow, I would say, when you get up to 6 submissions. But at the same time, if they're quality, they're going to make the cut and give us a chance to build a great program. May is asking, okay for groups or people to submit a proposal together? Either of you want to take that?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay. Yeah, we do ask you to list the main speaker when you're submitting the proposal. So there does need to be that main speaker, and there's also the ability to add like a co-speaker, and I think up to a third speaker as well. So you could have up to 3. I don't know if we allow more than that or if we have in the past, Mark. I don't think we have, but yeah. No,
usually it tops around 3. Yes, right, correct. And just to keep in mind, just to add to what Jeff just said, is the primary speaker will get a free registration to the events. The co-speakers have to pay. The first co-speaker pays a discount, and then the third speaker on a submission would have to pay the full price to attend the event.
Yeah, we've also had people propose panels with their own panelists, but the same math applies. The primary speaker or the host of the panel would be considered the primary speaker, and then the next speaker would get the discount and everybody else would register as an attendee. But you're certainly invited to submit. We'd love to have you at the conference.
Another question in here that says, how many proposals do you normally receive each year? Well, that varies. It's really hard to say. There have been years, to be honest with you, out there, we've received upwards of almost 1,000 submissions to speak. Typically, we'll see in the 600 to 700 range. And now, with COVID and things along that line, some hesitancy, we have definitely seen a smaller amount coming through, but definitely well in the hundreds of submissions. And just keep that in mind too. One of the biggest reasons that somebody does not make the program, the truth be told, is we only have so much real estate. And it's really a hard and challenging selection process, but we definitely like to try to give new voices on the program as often as we can. And keep in mind too, is if a proposal is not accepted for our face-to-face program, we have other events that are online that we often reach out to people for. We also reach out, and Pam knows a lot about this too, is new authors to come forward to create articles for us, contribute to white papers.
Which is a good way to get us to know you as well, which also helps with like future proposals as well.
Yeah, that's very true. I'm always looking for people to write articles. But the other thing I wanted to say is we do keep kind of a slush pile of proposals that we really liked, but that for one reason or another didn't get onto the program. And we very, very much reach out to those people for online conferences, for one-off events, for other types of speaking engagements, because you've already shown us that you know something about the topic, that you're interested in getting involved. So we definitely keep those, and we definitely reach out to you later on.
Well, we're down to just a couple more minutes. There's no other questions in the queue. So why don't we wrap here today? And if anything pops up, we'll keep going. But any final tips or thoughts that our people who are watching right now might want to consider before they submit a proposal, things to be thinking about as they approach the proposal process? I have one.
Go for it.
I was like, thanks, Jeff.
I'll allow it.
Yeah, a lot of people get caught up in some of the things in the process where they think a little too hard about the title for their particular session and their session. And keep in mind, one thing is true. You know, we're looking at the meat of the proposal, and that title is secondary. Do we want it catchy? Yes, but we also want it very clear. You know, if you're going to have something about video, then let's kind of label that right in that title, make it very clear to people that's there. We look at, and when we review proposals, and if that proposal is ultimately accepted, we will work with you to make modifications to that proposal that might be necessary. And that might include changes to the title. So don't necessarily think you just got to hammer that title so clearly. It's definitely through the objectives and how you're handling the challenge and how that challenge is going to be addressed in your session, and the most critical pieces to your proposal.
Yeah, I think a lot of the times people choose a session just based off of the title, but it would be, like you're saying, it helps for it to be descriptive enough in the title. So it's not something where I have to think too much about, okay, what is this session really going to be about? So having those clear titles helps, but also descriptions too. Like, you know, you don't have to over explain yourself and like all of the research behind everything within the proposal. Just keeping it concise and clear in the description, I think is helpful as well. Morgan did ask about if this is being recorded and where that will be available.
Yep, it is being recorded. I see that happening right now, and we will ultimately move this recording and make it available through our YouTube channel for the Guild. And so that you guys can share that link out once we get that. Morgan, that'll take, I can't imagine it's going to take much more than a day or two to just kind of move that forward and, you know, clean up maybe the front end chit chat we might have had that's in the recording.
Yeah, and we'll share that link out on LinkedIn and on Twitter, and we'll share it generally.
Just a public service announcement. Dave over in the chat mentioned that he really appreciated my feedback for his proposal last year. It helped him tie the description and the takeaways. That was really helpful. So yeah, it's just there's a little bit of a nice comment about what we do here at the Guild to try and help you get on the program and write the best proposals for us. Anything else? Any other final tips, or are we going to wrap it?
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap. All right. Once again, I'll leave it as this. Jeff, myself, Pam, and Sierra, who's not on this particular call, but we'll be available, obviously, to talk about learning solutions. Programs@learningguild.com if you have questions. One thing I will say is come to us with specific ideas and thoughts you may have. The one question we can't answer is when people ask the question of, what are you looking for, Mark, for the program? That's not how we can approach anything. So, you know, come to us with your general ideas, and then we can start from that particular point to kind of frame things up. All right. Hey, Jeff, Pam, thanks for joining me.
Thanks. Thanks everyone for coming. It's great.
Yep. All right. See you on the next Zoom.
Indeed.